to my midlife crisis. We are calling it the Brothers Random Show. My name is Travis.
I'm Michael.
And we are two ordinary brothers discussing extraordinary ideas and some random shit. Some of the topics on the show are going to vary from theology, politics, masculinity, movies, philosophy, books, pop culture, and many other subjects. We are talking about the people that we admire and learn from and the wisdom that they share. We will be standing on the shoulders of giants, people such as Ben Shapiro, Thomas Sowell, Megyn Kelly, Matt Walsh, Tim Ferriss, Chris Williamson of Modern Wisdom, Joe Rogan, Ryan Mishler from the Order of Men channel, Candace Owens, Tim Pool, Larry Elder, Gary Vaynerchuk, Barry Weiss, Will Jordan of the Critical Drinker channel, Mike Rowe, basically everyone over the Daily Wire Plus, and especially from Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, who we believe is the sage of our time. If you are offended by any of the previously mentioned people, or you are easily offended in general, we ask you to kindly move on and fuck off. Michael, how's it going?
It's going great. So today we are going to be talking about Exodus 2, the second episode that Jordan Peterson put on, where he's got people sitting around a round table talking about Exodus on the Daily Wire. Please go subscribe, watch it. It's awesome. We go through a lot of what they talk about, but there's so much more, and they go so deep.
The last episode we didn't get very far. So I mean, we got into maybe a third. So our episodes are going to range pretty much an hour to an hour and a half, and their episodes that they do are like 2 hours long. The people that he has on, I'm just going to name them off real quick. He has Dennis Prager, Larry Aaron, Dr. James Orr, Dr. Oz Guinness, Dr. Stephen Blackwood, Greg Horowitz, Dr. Douglas Headley, and Jonathan Pageau. Those are the people that he has on this, and it's a seminar. It's basically guys talking about the Bible. Yeah, super interesting stuff, right, Michael?
Yeah.
If you had asked me 20 years ago, hey, would you like watch religiously a bunch of guys sitting around a table talking about the Bible? I would have said you are fucking insane. But yep. It's very good, and we quite enjoy it. We really enjoy it.
So yeah, I don't know what your first notes are. They basically, this one is where they're talking mostly about Moses and the fiery bush, the bush that does not burn. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to give a shout out to some of the people who created it. So the Jonathan Hay is the director, and they have graphics at the beginning. They're very well done. And the intro theme is Michael Badell. I might be butchering everybody's name. And the director of photography, who has all these shots that are very close up. I assume that they're graphic, but they look kind of real. They're very well done. His name, the director of photography is Zach Gayenta. And I just wanted to shout out to them because I quite like the music, the opener music, and the music that they use to promote the next episode, which are all, and the music that's on the trailer, I believe. They're all very good and what would you say, kind of ethereal.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed all of that. I just wanted to give that a shout out. My first note is there is let me see. I don't know where I put it.
What do you remember in movies of the depiction, how they depict this in movies? Because I actually went back and watched 10 Commandments, the scene in 10 Commandments, and Prince of Persia, or sorry, not Prince of Persia, Prince of Egypt. I went back to watch that as well.
Mm-hmm.
This I thought was really interesting. In both scenes, they actually have the voice of the whoever is voicing or acting as Moses. They have that be God's voice in that scene. So Charlton Heston
Are you sure?
did the voice. Yeah, I looked it
No
up. Yeah,
kidding.
Charlton
Oh,
Heston
that's
did the
interesting.
voice. Now Charlton Heston did not do the voice of God the next time that
When he sees the Ten Commandments,
when he being burned in, he sees the
yeah,
Ten Commandments being burned in by God into the rock, into the
that's
tablets.
somebody else.
That's somebody else. But in the
Mhm.
scene of the burning bush, it's Charlton Heston himself, his voice, voicing God. And then it's Val Kilmer does the voice of Moses in The Prince of Egypt, and Val
Yeah,
Kilmer does
I
the
knew
voice of
that.
God
I knew that,
in
but I
that.
didn't know it was Charlton Heston doing that. That's interesting. Maybe
Yeah,
they,
isn't it fun?
well, somebody, so if you, the filmmakers probably studied this heavily before they actually made those movies. And by studying it heavily, they would have come across the same idea these guys are saying, is that there really isn't a, what would you call it, a good way to put God's voice out there. So why not use the same actor? Because maybe that's how we hear God's voice, is it's our own speaking to us, which is a very simple, not a lot of people, when they say that they, like, I don't know, felt God, they don't, like, I don't think people who actually hear other people's voices are usually considered crazy. So if it's your own voice, maybe speaking godly things to you, maybe that's an accurate description. Who knows?
Possibly. I mean, and we'll kind of, they talk about it a little bit throughout this episode, where they kind of talk about how God is kind of waiting for somebody to do something,
To step up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the first episode, they talk about how Moses killed an Egyptian. So Moses, an Egyptian is
murdered.
Beating it Israelite. He murders him,
and then
buries him in the sand.
Then he has shame over it because he tries to hide it.
He tries. Well, yeah, it's kind of, and they say they're kind of talking about how, like, this is a not fully formed Moses yet. Like,
he's learning.
He's right. Yeah. So, but he is the man of the time. This, I actually loved that. Where did they? Yeah, let's see. So he had a history that kind of builds up to him being called, right? The history being that he stands up against
tyranny,
something wrong.
So he knows
not necessarily just the whole tyranny, but something in his peripheral, something was happening right in front of him, and he stops it. He kills the Egyptian. Dennis Prager
in the Ten Commandments, they make it look like he was actually, he knew this Egyptian. Like, this Egyptian was a tyrant, and he already had this built up grudge, which is more realistic in real life, because you don't just randomly kill somebody. Maybe he actually knew who this Egyptian was, and he had already had run-ins with this Egyptian, which I like that idea. But maybe also because the Bible's actually pretty vague about all that. The Bible's like, there's some Egyptian that he kills to protect an Israelite, which I have issues with the whole murder thing. But if it shapes him and he has remorse over it, then
Dennis Prager talks about that. He talks about that a little bit. So Dennis Prager is kind of just like, a lot of Christians actually say that this was wrong, that he did, and he's like, I don't. I'm glad he killed the Egyptian.
Yes,
and I think it was a good thing that he killed the Egyptian.
Well,
and there was a little bit of back and forth
between
him
Jewish
and
justice.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, that's Jewish justice. They believe that that there should be justice regardless of the form that it comes in. I would say they're a little harsher when it comes to murder, because they're like, yeah, if some dude is beating me, I'm gonna lash back, which
Yeah.
I can't argue. I mean, I think that's, but I mean, I think, I would draw the line at killing somebody.
Eh, I don't know if we tried to put ourselves in the position that there's, let's say
Well,
that,
it doesn't go into that though. So, like I said, it doesn't go into the
yeah,
fact that he knew the Egyptian or the Israelite. So
he may not have.
if
But
the
if you were walking
Israelite,
down the street, and I don't know, there's a you see a woman and
Mhm,
she's being beaten by somebody,
you
and
try to
it's
interject.
you would possibly, and for all we know, he may have just been like, no, stop, and he wouldn't, or whatever the case, and then
Well, that's how
it
the
could have been a
prince.
tussle, a fight.
See, that's how the
We
Prince
don't
of
really know.
Egypt. See, that's how the Prince of
Yeah,
Egypt depicts it,
depicts it. Yeah,
because he's just
so
randomly sees somebody beating a Israelite,
yeah, and
and
in the
it also depicts it as an accident, like he's not
a little bit
intentionally
like,
trying to kill him.
yeah, they made it. They kind of,
But
as Dennis Prager would probably say, they Christianized it.
well, so did they Christianized it in the Ten Commandments, because he knows the Egyptian and the Israelite, and he's protecting the
Yeah,
Israelite, and
and
he and he and
in the Ten Commandments, it's Joshua, and they
yeah,
kind of interject Joshua, and because
into that.
Joshua's
Yeah.
a cool character that comes on later on in the Bible, I think they wanted to interject Joshua into there,
Yeah.
and have him play a role in all that, which I don't think Joshua is
Well,
even mentioned till later on
and I love
in the
that.
scriptures.
So Greg Horowitz, who's a writer himself, I love that he comes up with he goes, uh he's like, well, maybe this was what he needed to become the Moses that we know, because he needed I have the capability of killing somebody, but I'm going to choose later in life not to.
Yeah,
So I'm not going to raise up against uh
that's that's where the exchange kind of happens with him and
yeah.
Dennis Prager, where Dennis Prager's like, "Do you think it was a good thing that he killed the Egyptian? I think it was a good thing that he killed
Yeah.
the Egyptian." And
Well,
then
yeah,
and the
and
guys,
then
but
Horowitz
I
is
see
like,
his point. The
this
point
shaped
is,
him. It doesn't matter that it's wrong to murder. This actually shapes him as a human, as a fully formed individual who can go up against a tyrant. I like that idea, but then later you gotta, this is so crazy. Later he gets the 10 Commandments, and the 10 Commandments says thou shalt not kill, right?
well, and
So
I'm sure Dennis Prager will probably
bring this up
interject there. I'm
later in the
going
series.
to, I'm the translation, it was translated into "thou shalt not kill," but it really means "thou shalt not murder." The the the
Hmm.
the translation is a little bit
Well,
goofy in the
that
sense.
that
So
doesn't mean that you can't kill somebody in defense.
yes, that's what it's saying. It's basically saying a lot of people will get hung up on this thing. Well, even if somebody was trying to kill me, because it's in the Ten Commandments, I would not kill them.
Yeah.
It flies in the face of your own self defense, and et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. So
But if you,
so
murder is not in that sense considered to be uh defense of yourself.
murder
It's only
murder
murder
would
of
be,
the innocent, which is
so
would
it's not
be,
self defense. Murder would be murder. like
well,
like
yeah,
I wanted his
but if you
shit, so I
still,
went and killed him for it.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's
Hmm.
obvious difference, and I'm sure that they'll kind of get into that a little bit. But I loved that exchange because it was Greg Hurwitz. Is that what you said his name was?
Yeah, he's the writer, he's the
The writer,
novelist, yeah,
he
of
was
the group.
talking about what Jordan Peterson says about the meek shall inherit the earth, but that's the people who have swords and know how to use them, but choose to keep them sheathed. Now Moses is a developing, so he's a developing hero. The developing hero has shown that he, in a sense, he can be a little bit of a monster because he killed an Egyptian. So we're seeing this progression of the preparation of this person before they are called by God.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a couple different things. It's killing the Egyptian. It's saving the women at the well.
Because he okay, so later in the story he stands up to protect a few women from a bunch of jerks at a well who was shooing them away from the well, and he stands up and he the which
is also depicted several different ways, right?
Yeah, it's always depicted in a different way, but the one of the better ways is he has a full-on fight scene with them in the Ten Commandments.
The Ten Commandments, yeah, which is great.
With
awesome.
Charlton Heston, yeah, it's
and
cool.
then all the women are swooning.
And they're swooning over him. Thank you for saving
It's great.
us.
It's great.
Anyway,
19,
it's real.
Well,
the 1950s, 60s. It was like 1954 or something like that.
Chivalry, man.
Yeah,
loved it.
Yeah. So, but what's you're right. What's great about it is him shaping as into this person, and the so the Christian notion of don't murder no matter what is maybe sometimes ill I don't know, conceived or ill, because what the whole Christian notion is I won't kill anyone, but I will let them kill me, and then when I get to heaven I will be exonerated because I didn't kill anybody. But that's not exactly a great thing, because the better version of it is I will not terrorize or anybody, but if they come at me, I'm definitely going to defend myself. So that goes back, this all goes back to like Virtuous Monster. It's mostly in defense of the innocent. And to lay down and not kill based on this idea that you'll have a better afterlife. But so say there's somebody coming at somebody who's innocent, like a child, and you don't want to keep this person away. You try, but then he keeps going at, like he keeps trying to get to this child to kill this child or harm this child. And you have the opportunity to stop him and kill him. So this is like philosophy 101, right? You have this opportunity to stop him and kill him, but you don't take this opportunity. So which is better? Is you not murdering the guy who's going to continuously hurt children so that you can get to a better place, so you are held in better esteem when you get to heaven? Or is it better, will you, I still think you'll be judged for not doing anything, for not stopping it,
which kind of goes to,
so God's on his judgment throne, and he goes, you had the opportunity to stop this monster and you didn't.
Yeah, that kind of goes to a little bit to the fact that in some places God has said that he will hate the lukewarm people more than he will hate the people who chose a side, in a sense. Like they're going to be good or they're going to be bad, but the lukewarm people that
are worse.
It's almost, there's almost a, and I forget exactly where it's at in the Bible, but there's kind of a, I want to say Christ says it, that those who, I can't remember anyway, but there's a sense that people, the middle people, the people that won't act either way, those people
put Christ as this like love is, and all that. They put him in that, but they always forget the story of the cat of nine tails, right? They always forget him, like, enraged. He takes a whip and he starts whipping all these people who are selling goods on the temple, in the temple, who are desecrating this sacred place, right? And he gets mad about it, and he goes and he just wreaks havoc on them. Now, they always forget to, like, that was surprising to me as a child, because as a child, you're thinking, oh, he's all love and righteousness and all this kind of stuff. But you never think of him as angry. You never think of him as aggressive. But so that might feed right into
that
the
might feed
virtuous
right into when
monster.
the I think it's Dr. Oz that says, he mentions that Jesus with Nazareth, in the translation that we have, it says he wept when Lazarus died before he brought him back to life. It says he wept, but he was mentioning that in the Greek 3 times it says he was angry, and he was saying this in he said he was raised, because like Dennis Prager and a few of the others kind of got into this thing where it's like evil, all evil is good, and
evil is good if
Dennis Prager
evil
has
is
this
good if
problem
it
with
brings
this.
about change, right? Evil, like they're saying, everything evil turns good at some point.
Turns good at some point, yes.
And Dennis Prager is like, no,
Dennis Prager's like, I don't subscribe to
because
this.
he says the raped person doesn't become less raped afterwards. So evil stays evil, right? This is a very interesting idea. I wrote down the quote. Dennis brings up the idea God turns everything into good is not accurate, because the tortured person is still tortured, right? Yeah. You can't untorture them. The evil remains evil. Our task is to conquer it, not transform it. So that's what we need to remember.
I understand what they're saying in a sense, because you almost, if it's out of your control, you have to kind of like you almost have to still believe in the good that can come of something, especially if it's out of your control. But Dennis Prager mentions that. So Dr. Oz says, I was always taught to fight evil, like with everything that you are, you fight evil. And Dennis Prager's like, you were raised more Jewish than many Jews.
Yeah.
So if you're raised that way,
he's just laying some shade on the non-secular or the secular Jews. Like, that's what he's doing, because he can't abide. Possibly. He hates secular Jews, and probably for a pretty good reason. So anyway, but
I want to get more into like the call, like the progression of Moses being called.
So before we get into this, there was a thought that I had, and for the person just tuning into our show, Michael and I were both raised on a fundamentalist Mormon compound, for lack of a better word. We are no longer part of the LDS Church, so we will be talking extensively about the LDS religion. And this is something that I wanted to talk about, was Moses is a prophet of old who is, when he goes to the burning bush, he asks to see God's face, right? And God tells him he can only see his back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about this early on in the episode, and they just kind of brush it by it. But why does Joseph Smith say that he sees their faces when the prophets of old never did? Could he possibly be full of shit?
I mean, yeah,
because there's a ton of hubris going on for somebody who is educated in these older tales of God. And I can't remember any specifics saying that they saw his face. I mean, every time that there's always like Noah walked with God. You could take that as metaphorical, like he was just, he always had him on his mind.
Mm-hmm.
There's Jacob wrestles with God and it gets called Israel. But they never talk about him actually seeing him. Maybe he wrestled with him. He gets the hip. He has the hurt hip. I mean, what do you think about that? What do you think
It,
that maybe
it,
Joseph Smith just was like full of it and he just thought, oh well, I get to see him, whereas
it,
other prophets of old
it,
never actually saw him.
it, it falls, and that's probably one of the biggest critiques that Christendom has against Mormons,
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that God is a personage rather than a kind of
Entity,
overall spirit, like an ominous spirit
an
that
entity.
is everywhere, like an entity. Yeah, yeah. So it's a difference in theology about like who and what God is. Uh, and
I'm starting, the more I learn about these older stories, I'm starting to go on the side that it's more of an entity because,
like an entity that's over
well, yeah,
in permeating in and through. Although
because
I
there's
mean, they
so much
mention in this
there's
in this episode, they actually do mention that there's the difference between kind of the pagan gods of that God is nature
yeah,
rather than a being that created nature,
yeah.
which is it's so in a sense. I mean, I don't know. Joseph Smith might have been onto something in this sense that God is like a and I guess exalted personage, and it just I don't know if we want to get into
Well,
it here, but it's a different theology,
but we
being that
would
God is a
never,
personage.
it's impossible to know, like the expanse of the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more on the grounds of there's no way to know, so it's more of an entity than it is a personage. And the problem with that, because there's really no story that I can think of the old Bible that actually says he was a, like, other than maybe Moses asks to see his face and he just tells him he's allowed to see his back, which implies that he's a personage and not an entity.
I that
But it's like,
maybe
it's just a weird thought that I had while I was listening to it. It's like, it's along the same lines of people who try to practice polygamy and think that they have the ability to do it, when Abraham, a prophet of old and a great man by all accounts, could not get his shit together when it came to his wives.
the
And
idea of the old prophets.
he basically
So
created a millennia of violence between two warring nations, Islam and Israel. Or
well, is the story telling more about the two warring nations, or is the story an actual fact? Like
that's
it actually happened, or is it portraying a beginning of two warring nations
that have
I
never stopped fighting.
that have never stopped fighting? Yeah. So who the fuck
Hmm.
knows?
Who
But
the fuck knows?
I so the the hmm, I, I mean it kind of goes back into that. Did it really happen, or is this a meta truth?
Yeah.
Something that's telling us something above and beyond, uh, that's a caricature, a truth that
Mm-hmm.
permeates throughout human the human experience. I,
It,
I don't
it's
know.
it's just a thought I had, and I find it super interesting that um people who are probably less than great think that they can get it better than the great. That's
Well, and that to that point about Abraham and didn't have his shit together. So in the Old Testament is filled with flawed these kind of flawed heroes, right?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think I think it's meant to be that way because it's meant
Because
to
it's
tell
teaching.
us,
Yeah, it's teaching us
yeah, it's
something.
meant to
Yeah,
it's not it's not trying to, I guess, in a sense, it's not trying to say that you I don't know, and this maybe comes from more in Christianity where with Jesus, but it's kind of saying you need to go do great things even though you are not perfect.
yeah.
Abraham went and did great things
Great things,
even though
though
he
he's
was
not
not
perfect, in
perfect.
spite of his imperfections. Yeah,
Moses went and did great things even though Moses was imperfect, right?
yeah.
And the imperfection comes to a precipice when he tries to bring water from the rock with uh like I did it, not God, but I did it.
Yeah,
The
and he
hubris,
and he kind
getting
of
that
gets that
hubris in there,
hubris in
and
himself.
then guess what? He doesn't get to go into the promised land,
Yeah,
which Wolverine in Logan
and
does not
Logan
get to go
does
to
this
the
go to the
promised
promised
land.
land. That way to bring it
So
back to
but
pop
to
culture.
movies, to pop culture. Well, this is so I love when Dennis talks about that this idea that God is waiting for the right person. So it's like
Yeah,
why did God never bring the children of Israel
out of
out
Egypt.
before, right? Out
So
like out of bondage
they don't
before.
actually know the time, but I would say there's probably a good 100 years of them being in bondage, right?
And the
They never
time frame
actually.
is actually irrelevant, I think. I think
Well, but it's been a
it's meant
long
to be,
time,
yeah.
and it's meant to be vague so that you actually. So that's a good point to make.
So it's showing that a hero is being molded. So that
Yeah,
so and the story, and as the story progresses, you see like his mother saves him by building an ark and sending him away by building
hmm,
another woman saves him who's not his family, right? So we're getting an orphan, we're getting
yeah,
a mother, the the Mary and Jesus, the holy child motif out of this, as well as the holy um what's a child without parents, uh
an
a
orphan,
child, an orphan. You're getting a holy orphan
holy
story
orphan
where
story.
so and then and I loved Jonathan Paggio points out that Moses at this time, in a kind of general sense, because all the other men were killed, right? So masculinity is at an all-time low in the Israelites because all the men
Yes,
were
because all the
killed.
men. Yeah, that's a good thing. Paggio points that out. Yeah, so
So
he's saying that he might have been the only man of his generation who was able to do this.
yeah, which I mean, there's some inconsistencies in the text because you get Aaron, you get Joshua, you get other people, which Joshua was probably just way younger or something like that. You see other men around, but the point is awesome, that basically masculinity has been that, yeah, I would say like an all-time low. It's masculinity is an all-time low, and a masculine is going to save them. So, which I love. I just, because we're talking about masculinity here. So
Yeah,
and it is a motif that is throughout the movies that we love. The
yeah.
one, right?
Well,
So
no, it's the hero with 1,000 faces. It's
yeah,
very um relatable because we as a society are always looking for heroes, and they come in all sorts of different forms. But like you said, we can actually take this old story. So this old story is actually the genesis of Superman. uh uh, uh Jerry Siegel and Joel Schuster, the creators of Superman, were Jewish,
Yeah, and the
and
story
they
being
come
that
up with the same
he
idea
was an orphan. He was sent,
from
all sent, and he was the only one that was living from his planet Krypton,
Krypton. He only lived.
and
He's the only one who lived. He was sent away. He
he's
had,
raised by not his parents, right?
yeah, by adopted parents. It's the same
It's almost
story.
like he's sent on an arc. Yeah.
Yeah,
So he and
they actually said that. They actually said we based this on the story of Moses. They actually did,
I thought they said that they
because
were
they were,
trying to go for Samson, but maybe I'm
well,
probably wrong on that.
they brought
They brought in some
some of that
other
stuff into it because they were
stuff because he's
myth,
strong.
but
Yeah,
they were both Jewish men in America who were trying to make it in America, and they create, arguably, he's not my most favorite. Obviously, he's not my favorite.
he is the most famous.
But he is the most famous
Superhero.
superhero in the world.
Yeah,
But he's not my
yeah.
favorite. I like him. I like him
I would
darker.
say he's my favorite. So
Superman's
you're a
your favorite.
Batman guy. You're a Batman guy.
I like mine
I'm the
darker.
Superman guy. It's all good.
So
well, and also, I mean, we don't need to get into it, but there's also there's reasons that people love Batman because he has more to lose, because he's human, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, but I love that, and I even put a note down about the one Neo in Matrix, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's this kind of savior motif that's throughout excuse me, a lot of our movies that we love.
And this has become a pejorative, right? It's become negative because, I mean, Avatar is in theaters right now. Avatar, the new James Cameron Avatar. I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. I'm probably not going to see it, but at least not in theaters. But I'm seeing stuff online saying, oh, James Cameron's has got the savior complex and all this stuff. So this has become the savior thing, a hero coming in and saving people, has become a pejorative. And
we might see the end of that. I don't know.
And
yeah,
it's sad. Entertainment.
It's sad.
It's a sad because it's it's so old. It's older than Moses. Like Moses, it may be the ultimate savior story, or maybe the story of Jesus Christ, which is the same thing, but it's older than them. Like there's Greek gods who were saving people all the time. There's it gets, the further back in history you go, the more, well, these stories exist. And the fact that it goes back to hubris. What makes us think that we know better than people who lived ancient, just because we have technology? And that's what seems to be happening in pop culture right now, is that they are systematically getting rid of the ancient story. Who cares if it's flawed, right?
Mm-hmm.
It still speaks to a huge number of people, and right now we're in a renaissance with our entertainment where it's getting less good entertainment for the sake of a politically correct agenda.
Yeah, which is really, and also really sad, because we've got one side of the aisle that wants all of this to go, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, to go away, and they want to change it, which is cool. It's cool that they're doing this Exodus stuff, because it is timeless. Like, they're talking about this Exodus stuff, and it's timeless, and is above and beyond the politics of the current moment. He's got lefties on the panel with him. Jordan Peterson does.
Yeah,
On the panel with him, talking about these timeless old stories, because it really does. These stories should, and the stories that they take, when they take these and refurbish them and put them out, it really should transcend the politics of the time. But now it's so unfortunate that so much of our entertainment now has become a talking point and pushing the current narrative, because
an agenda.
The agenda,
I call it
because they're losing
riddled.
this timeless piece.
Yeah, I call it agenda riddled entertainment, and it just they're pushing an ideology rather than a story. And and I'm not opposed to having an ideology in a story, but you have to find subtle ways to do it. The best example.
We don't like to be. I don't think anybody likes to be preached to.
Yeah, when they're doing entertainment.
And I think, and I've had this conversation with other people as well, and that is that one of the reasons that let's just say Christian entertainment has been had such a bad rap, I guess, is because they felt like the message was paramount and the story didn't matter, right?
Christian entertainment has been lacking like really bad. Like if you watch I haven't seen one in a long time, but some of those, they were like focus on the family features and stuff like that, and they were terrible because they're like, this is a good point that you've made, so that their message was more important than creating a good story. That
why would you not love this? Like it promotes, bringing Jesus into your heart.
Yeah,
right?
that's that kind of stuff.
There's no reason you should not love this show.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So
and the problem with that is that the message, when the message outweighs the storytelling elements, because we want to be entertained, right? Like the Gladiator. Are you not entertained? We want to be entertained, and we want ideology to be subtle. But when it's paramount and the entertainment is not, when you're taking the entertainment and it's down here and the message is up here in your movies,
so the Christians,
turn people off.
So the Christians, and what's so dumb is like the cult has shifted and it's gone a different way, and it's in our now. So the Christians, they had a message of an ethic, a message that was paramount, and the story secondary, right? Story secondary. Doesn't matter, as long as we get the message out, story is secondary. Well, now they're doing that right now with wokeism. The message is paramount, story is secondary, right?
And we don't care. All entertainment.
So now all entertainment, you get She-Hulk and you get all this stuff, and so they now it's going and permeating with it, and we need to get back to the story being paramount, because basics. It's timeless.
Yeah,
because it doesn't. This story, the Exodus story, is timeless.
Yeah,
the Moses, the Christ, these motifs that, and let's be honest, like we it doesn't need to be overbearing, right?
Yeah.
Like I should watch it again, but I felt like there was an Exodus story deep seated inside the Logan movie, which I love.
Hugh Jackman,
with Hugh Jackman, great show. And I didn't even think about it till after. I was just thinking about Logan and like how it was, and I don't even know if anybody during the making we're like, yeah, this is an Exodus story, but but it still was a timeless show.
Yeah. And
So
the director has said that Shane was a big influence on him. And if you get a chance to read that book, you should read that book, because that has a lot to do with the masculine, the violent masculine, and the peacekeeping masculine. It's very
yeah.
very, very interesting book. And he said that was mostly inspiration for Logan. So
Yeah.
I guess getting back to the Exodus, I I like this idea of Aaron and Moses being the equivalent to like the nowadays prophet and politician.
Oh,
They bring this up in this, and it's interesting because Aaron's like the mouthpiece of Moses, even though Moses has all the authority. But it's basically like a tiered system to keep, because Aaron's kind of lost without Moses to guide him, but Aaron's
right.
more flashy, right? And this is what we
Yeah.
need today in our politicians. They all have the flash with nobody standing behind them going, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should be better,
It was interesting when Dennis Prager mentioned, he's like, and this is kind of shown in the sense that when God starts talking to Moses and says, you got to go save my people and bring them to freedom, Moses is like, whoa, wait a minute, you got the wrong guy. Like, you don't want me.
Yes.
You really should. You really should do somebody else. And Dennis Prager makes this mention of one of the problems we have in politics is you almost need leaders that
who
don't
want
to be leaders.
Yes.
And it's
That's a very good
worst thing. It's the worst thing in our politics. I was listening to Jocko Willink, and somebody asked him, would you ever, get into politics? And he is like, hell to the no. I never want to do politics. It just, I watch people and friends of mine get dragged through the mud and the dirt, and I don't want any part of it. So it's can be so hard and so you watch your name get dragged through the mud and everything like that. It really kind of makes you just, well, who
would
want to do that? Yeah. So,
and it's all narcissists and assholes who want to become politicians.
Yeah.
Right?
So now we've got we're riddled with politicians, and
that are no good,
unfortunately, that want to be politicians, and it kind of sucks.
It sucks. It really does. It's not a pleasant. It's really not pleasant, because it goes back to the whole idea that you want people to be leaders who don't want to be leaders. And Moses doesn't want to be a leader. He doesn't want to do that, right? He's tending to flocks. He's got his family. He's got his wife and child. This probably was a huge wrench in his life, because they talk about it. They talk about his child. So he's got to be several years removed from Egypt at this point. He's living his life, and he gets called to do this, but he doesn't want to do it. And I always find it interesting that they argue with God. It's like when Abraham's arguing with God about destroying the city, right?
It's so common in the Old Testament.
It really
to
is
argue with God.
To argue with God.
Goes to that point. Israel,
because God's always like,
meaning the people who wrestle with God. And bargaining with God.
And it goes back to this.
Great.
This was a really interesting idea that they brought up in the Exodus seminar. This is really interesting. Maybe God doesn't intervene unless there's somebody who's stepping up.
Yeah.
And this is a theory that
Dennis Prager says that waiting for the right person, God will act if we do.
Yes, God will act if we do. So this is very interesting to me, because I have been toying with the idea of the unintrusive God theory. And I guess this is more prevalent in Judaism, because we actually watched a video together about
Ben Shapiro
Ben
mentions it.
Shapiro. He
It's the
mentioned that it's called,
retracting of light. So the idea that God created everything and in a sense kind of retracted his light,
and
stepped
stepped
back,
away.
and to allow to like kind of allow things to happen. And
And
so
this is
yeah,
hard. This is hard for uh, a, LDS people, because this is hard for Christians, because they believe in miracles. And a miracle is something miraculous happens that wouldn't normally happen, and God willed it to happen. But if you go with the unintrusive God theory, then it pulls miracles out of the picture. Miracles aren't going to happen,
little bit.
because what you're doing is you're left to your own devices. And Ben Shapiro was asked about what was the question? Why does God allow bad things to happen? And he basically says, because God does not intervene to prevent people from exercising their free will.
Mm-hmm.
And that is at the heart of the unintrusive God theory. And the reason that I bring it up is because there's maybe 2 times in my entire life where I actually thought, and it's a coincidence, right? Where I thought maybe God intervened in some way. And it was very small. It's not a big thing. And I haven't stopped. I believe in God, and I haven't stopped praying to God, but I haven't had an experience where I believed that he actually intervened in my life. And a lot of people that we know think that he's always intervening in your life. Like
Miracles. I mean, I was just talking with one of our siblings that's staunch LDS, and they were saying quite often, and kind of said it a few different times, that that miracles happen, and this coincidence that happened in my life was a miracle, and kind of telling us all about how this was a miracle and stuff like that. And it was, it really was kind of little things. And I've heard it said by atheists, basically, like, if there's a God that is creates the miracle for a suburban woman to find her keys, then that's a really shitty God that lets a child starve in Africa.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what atheists have a hard time with. I'm more along the lines of that God doesn't intervene, that he puts us on here and he lets circumstances happen as they may. The choices you make create consequences that will happen for the rest of your life. So if you're in a bad place, you've made choices that have led you to that bad place. And I take that back. It's not always choices. Sometimes it's just outright circumstances that you have no control over. It's somebody else's choices that are inflicted on you. So Viktor Frankl sitting in Auschwitz, not
a concentration
camp. He's probably going there. There is no God because this is hell on earth, but there is a God, and what he did is he let bad choices of a entire nation of people create hell on earth. Bad choices of the Nazi party. And it wasn't.
This goes back to Solzhenitsyn that came out of Russia.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Alexander. Yeah. Solzhenitsyn. Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, where he says when he's in the gulags, he realizes that he had to take responsibility for every time that basically all of this gulags, people being sent to the gulags and communism taking over Russia, all was his responsibility. and it really it is one of those things where
it was
the
everybody's individual
every it
responsibility.
was
Yeah.
everybody's fault. Hitler was very good at projecting what everyone was thinking.
Yeah.
So
And he
it wasn't just Hitler being this horrible leader and
yes.
leading all these
It was
people to
individual.
evil.
Oh yeah. It was
It was all
individual
the people had
Germans.
this
Yeah.
evil in their heart that that pushed, that helped him, and he kind of just was reading the crowd and just kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
was like, all right, this is what they like, and I'm running with it. I'm not saying that he did not have his place in
In the
the
evil pantheon. Yeah. Yeah.
right, but he never, if there was enough people that would have stood up and said,
No.
hold on, raise their hands,
It would have
hold
stopped.
on,
It would have stopped.
no,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's the whole point of what's the Jordan Peterson says this all the time. If we all individually do what is right, we all collectively flourish.
mhm,
So if we all
yeah,
treat and do good in the world, then the only reason that bad things happen is that are out of everybody's control is there's a bunch of people who are causing bad things to happen. They're not doing good, right? And then you can always go to like natural disasters and stuff like that, but maybe those are
well, and
tests.
let me go back to the suburban mother who prays to find her keys, and it's a miracle that she finds her keys,
A
right?
miracle.
The miracle. Okay.
She just found her
Let me go
keys.
back to that. Let me go back to that because, I mean, is the miracle in that she found her keys, or is the miracle in the sense that she has adopted a belief in a higher and better purpose? Maybe because she has this belief in this, and she's active in her church. She when someone dies in the community of cancer, she takes food to them,
So
right, to the survivors.
maybe you're speaking
I'm
to a meta miracle.
so maybe there's a miracle that's within, that permeates in her neighborhood and in her society and in her, so the all the way up to this, societally everything is kind of raised up a notch just by this person
Believing
being a
in
good
miracles.
person, right? Maybe the belief in the miracle kind of ups, and then it kind of, and Jordan Peterson talks about this, you be good in your community, and you help, and then that helps the
Community,
town, and then that helps the county, and then that helps the
the
state,
state.
and you're so permeating up through all of that. And okay, so let's go back to, I don't know, and I don't want to put any judgment and or anything on children, starving in Africa, but is it possible that this child is starving because there was a parent that made a wrong decision, but then also there was a mayor that made a wrong decision, and then there was a governor that made the leadership up the line. You keep going up the line, and there's corruption and
They're all
corruption.
doing bad. They're all basically.
If you look at some of these countries that struggle,
It's
there's
because
like
everybody's.
corruption
Yeah.
up,
It's because no one
just
is trying to do good.
permeating.
You might have like the person at the bottom trying to do good, and if they're the only one trying to do good, then it's not going to happen. But it takes a collective of people to do good to get things to happen, right?
So this goes back to the Moses, the story of the Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
Where can that change in, let's say, in this country where there's corruption throughout, right? The corruption is happening in Pharaoh. Pharaoh is corrupted.
Yeah,
Egypt is corrupt.
Yeah,
the Egyptians
is,
are corrupt. They
so
are enslaving these people.
It takes a leader a hero to come about to elicit change, an outlier.
All the other men are dead. All the other
yeah,
men are
all
dead.
the other, yeah.
There's
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
There's the one. And that person needs to hear the call.
Yeah.
There's shit going on. And God even says, I have heard my people's cries. Right. And they go into this a little bit. Like, if a woman hears a baby's cry,
it's
and
immediate.
she's moved, right?
Yeah.
There's it's
Something
almost a spirit. There's
well,
a
it's a
spirit. There's an
or a
ethic.
lizard brain, or it's just our brains.
Who
yeah.
the hell knows? People turn it off. They were in Russia when they were starving. They were eating babies. They had they
so
had
turned it off. Yeah.
So they turned off. They turned off that call of God.
Yeah.
Right. God's calling to fix this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have is a story that's building a hero. Right. The story of building a hero.
Yeah.
You're beating this Egyptian is beating an Israelite. I am stopping this. It's within my circle of influence. I am stopping this. All right, cool. Well, looks like the Matrix is gonna kill me. I got to get out of here. Okay, gets out. Right, but then fixes his life and is built a good life, and now is receiving the call to go against
God. Yeah,
the call of God. Yes, I mean, and it goes. He sees the bush, right, and he goes to investigate. And this, they kind of talk about this being part of the call, right? And then God says, he calls him Moses, and then Moses says, "Here am I." So it's almost like hearing the call and saying, "All right, cool. What do I need to do? I'm here, ready. What do I need to do?"
Hey, listeners and viewers, I wanted to just squeeze in here and give a quick announcement. Our next episode will be a deep dive into a movie called The Book of Eli. It's a 2010 film with Denzel Washington, directed by the Hughes brothers. I hope that all of you are able to watch it, and our next episode that drops will be a deep dive into it. Thanks.
I mean, we're already into this by an hour, so. But we didn't make it very far into this one either.
There's some good stuff. It was fun.
So everybody listening, we will be continuously doing this of the Exodus stories. We not the Exodus stories, but the Exodus seminar. We'll probably go into all the Exodus seminar stuff throughout. I believe they have 8 episodes, and they'll have another 8 episodes later in the year.
And eventually he's doing this in preparation for
his lectures,
his Exodus lectures.
Jordan Peterson is
can't wait.
Yeah. And this is all this is all kind of stuff that interests us, and so we'll be discussing it, and we invite all of you listeners to come along. I guess this is the point where we beg that you follow and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Michael, what are our social media stuff?
Yep, we got on Instagram at the Brothers Random. On Twitter, we got at Brothers V Random. V as in Victor, a V kind of representing 5, the Roman numeral for 5. There are 5 brothers. We are from a family of 5 brothers. YouTube is at the Brothers Random, and yeah.
All right.
We're the Brothers Random on Facebook, our Facebook page. So come join the journey.
Yep. And keep reading, keep listening, keep watching, keep learning. We'll see you, Michael.
Have a good one. See you, brother.